Good evening and welcome to the July 17th, 2025 meeting of the Minnetonka Economic Development Advisory Commission. The schedule and tentative agendas can be obtained by calling the Community Development Department or by checking the city website at minnetonkaminnesota.gov. Copies of tonight's agenda and staff reports are on the podium outside of these chambers. This meeting is televised and web streamed on the city's website. Listening devices are available upon request. If you wish to use a device, please see the city staff located outside city council chambers. And from a broader standpoint, the EDAC attempts to find a balance between individual rights and community responsibilities as they make their recommendations. Individual rights are easy to understand. Community responsibilities are more subtle, but the idea is that we, as members of the community, agree to limit our individual rights for the common good of the group. The Community Development Department, the Economic Development Advisory Commission, and the City Council are responsible for managing the sometimes difficult balancing act. We ask that you keep this broader perspective in mind as we review tonight's subject matter. Before we begin, please make sure your cell phones are turned off. And the items on tonight's agenda include March 3, the contract for private redevelopment, and staff report. With that, we'll take attendance.
Thank you, Chair. Anderson, absent. Connors? Here. Falk?
Here.
Haig?
Here.
Jen, absent. Hramatka, absent. Vice Chair Didinsky, excuse me, Sabuka.
Present.
Thank you.
28th, 2025 should be in the packet for today's meeting. Motion to approve the minutes. Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, motion seconded. We'll take an order. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Minutes are approved from May 28th, 2025, and copies of those should be in the packet. Okay, moving on with the agenda items today.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. We have the request for financing for Marsh 1-3. If you are familiar with the site, just on the right-hand side of the bottom picture, that's the Burke Building on Fairfield Road. To the left is the existing office building at 11800 Wayzata Boulevard. What is proposed is a 4-story rental building. If you recall, there were some earlier plans that you might have seen for this. It had townhomes, 25 townhomes, I think was the last plan that we looked at. There were questions more site planning related that caused the developer to rethink and relook at the plans, and that's why you have the proposal that you have this evening. So they went from a rental townhome to a 44-unit apartment building, which kind of made the footprint for the building a little bit smaller. The mix of units are 1 bedrooms, 1 plus den, and then 2 bedrooms. And if you're not familiar, this actually was in the original TIF district, the tax increment financing district of Marsh Run 2, which is to the left or to the west of where this project is located. I think this is probably the best map to show the aerial view. So here's the Burke, here's the Vale, which was Marsh 2, and now the Vale. And by the way, they are occupying that building now, so they have folks moving in. So you'll see a lot of activity at that building. And then this project is right in the middle of that. So the proposal that we're asking for your feedback about, and what we talked about last time we met in May, was really about this 20% of the units at 50% area median income. So you would have a total of 9 units with a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom. And as we often do with these projects, is we try to reflect the same percentage of units as the overall percentage of affordability. So in this case, we have 5 1-bedroom units, and the market rents would be at $1,823, whereas the 50% AMI would give you a $1,241 per month rent. Those are about 751 square feet for helping you with the size of the unit. Moving into the 2-bedroom, the market rent on a 2-bedroom in a building like this would be about $2,600 per month. And with the 50% AMI rate, it would be $1,500-ish. Again, that 2-bedroom is more like 1,100 square feet in size. So there were a lot of numbers in your report, and we do have Ellers in the audience to help you if you have any specific financing questions. But the total cost per unit was about $310,700. I'm going to round up, and about $332 per rentable square foot. You can see the construction loan amount versus equity, so almost a 70-30 split on the sources of funds. And then moving through the various uses of funds, you have acquisition amount. The actual construction was about $10 million. Moving into a fee for the contractor, there's soil conditions that need to be remedied, professional services, financing costs, and then of course a developer fee. And in Eller's report in the back of the packet, you can see their analysis about what they felt was appropriate in terms of the assistance, and we'll get to that in a minute. Some of the calculations that they do, yield on cost, cash on cash, the rate of return, etc., all were analyzed. And so on the chart here too, it shows kind of the difference in terms of value, present value for that affordability. So hopefully that's helpful to you in terms of looking at the overall cost to provide that affordability. So the financial recommendation was for about $850,000, and that would be financed at 5%, or the actual project mortgage, final mortgage rate, whichever is less. So there's a safeguard, if you will, in that contract to make sure it's not more than that. So then there's an annual share paid out from the 90% of the TIF, and then the city retains 10% of that. And then the term is for 15 years. And as we do with all contracts like this, there's that look back provision so that we true up all costs after the project's done, make sure what they told us they were going to do is what actually happened. And if not, there's we rectify that in the financials, and then the TIF is adjusted based on that. Some other items to note in the contract that was in your packet. There is a commencement date, so they'll commence this year yet, and then there's a completion date. I think they probably want to get started as soon as they can. And then we already went through the TIF, and we already went through kind of the bottom affordability requirements. Just some other notes, it's a 30-year term as we have with other affordable projects. They have to accept Section 8, that's not optional, and that's pretty customary in our contracts for probably the last 5 years, I would say. They must provide a 90-day sale notice to the people in the building if they decide to sell the property, and then there's a property management covenant that we put in the document as well. So with that, Chair, I'll leave it back to the EDAC for a recommendation. Staff is comfortable and is recommending approval of the request. With that, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Opening up for discussion and questions. Yes.
Just a question, I think, maybe for Ms. Gray or Ellers. I think this is my lack of context on the planning side of things, but when I was looking at Vail and the Berkey, the density is much higher, and there are more units and more bedrooms overall, significantly, maybe 20, 30, 40%, even if you count the Vails, like the pond in the back. So is there like a reason there was like a site limitation with Marsh Run 3 that prohibited more development, more units?
If I may, Chair.
Yes.
Chair and Commissioner Haig, I think there are a couple of things going on the site. One is there's floodplain and wetlands to the west, and so there's a kind of a boundary we can't go back. And then it's pretty narrow, and so you can't go pretty far to the east. So you can't have a building that would have multiple angles or anything like that, because it's just kind of a straight shot in terms of where you can build on the site, which then kind of leads you to a one hallway type situation. So you can't have multiple hallways or anything because you don't have the width. So I think all of those things led to this proposal. Now, when the townhomes were proposed, that's where things got a little bit wider, and I think that started to make people feel uncomfortable, whether it was the planning commission or the city council, and they didn't like how close to the road and how close to the wetland area it became. And then also kind of this congestion in the middle for the garages as you kind of maneuvered through. So I think some of that site planning issue was tougher and more congested with the townhome plan, even though we have more units here and less units with the townhome. So there's some site issues, yes.
Yeah.
Site constraints,
Okay,
maybe.
that's it.
Yeah. Yes.
I just wanted to comment on one thing that I noticed that I appreciate about the project, and that was the per unit cost of $3,148 per year, falling within the range of the cost for the prior projects that we listed. The range is from $500 per unit per year to $4,571 per year per unit. So I thought that was something favorable, that I thought it was in line with where we need to be able to approve it.
That's all. Other questions or feedback? Yes.
Thank you, Madam. Is it Madam Chair? Okay, Madam Chair. I just had a question about what's the difference between the 60% and the 50% AMI? What would be the dollar amount difference that we would be giving up for the TIF funding?
So are you asking, like, if we had a 60% unit, the difference between a 60 and a 50%?
Right.
Stacy, do you know that off the top of your head? I can look it up. Stay tuned. I can
Okay.
look
And I
that
have
up.
one more question, because when we talk about the goal of getting deeper in affordability, if we switched it from 50%, from 60% to 50%, then is the 50%?
It is at 50.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So that's more affordable than at the 60%. And so we said we're going to do 20% more at 50% versus the 60%, right?
We're doing, so this slide on the left-hand side, Chair, if you don't mind, 20% of the units, so 44 units total, 20% are affordable, which is 9 units. Then below you can see 5 of the units are 1 bedroom, and that's the rent rate at 50% AMI. And then the 4 2-bedroom, again at 50% AMI, is about $1,500.
Okay. I guess I'm just trying to figure out why did you switch it from, the 60 to 50, and what's the benefit? There has to be a benefit to the developer on why they decided to go this route instead.
Oh, I see.
So that's what I'm trying to figure out.
I get
What
it.
is the benefit of it?
I get your question.
Right.
So I think Councilmember Coakley is talking about when you do 10% affordability, there's a 5 at 50, 5 at 60. That's the policy, right? This one is 20% because we're in a TIF district. So, but then that ends up at a lower AMI, which makes it more affordable. So it's actually better than having any 60% units. The other thing the EDAC, I think you looked at this last time, is the neighborhood in which you're in has a lot of 60% units already. And so to shake up the market a little bit, I think you were zoned in more on the 50% AMI because we didn't have a lot of 50% in this area. There's a tax credit project just in the north, and they would do 30% rents. So that would be Crown Ridge has 30% units, and then lots of 60 in the neighborhood, but very little 50%. So that it's not a benefit to the developer. It actually costs more money for them to provide at 50%. And I think that's shown on here. So this is the actual cost of providing that affordability. You can see the monthly income difference for 5 units would be almost $3,000 a month, and then the 2 bedrooms would be about $4,500 a month. So that's a pretty sizable amount, and then you times that by 30 years, by 12 months, etc., it becomes a big number, and that's how you get to 800 eventually. Yeah, so I think it was about neighborhood, and I think it was about making all of the units at 50. At least that's my recollection of your conversation.
Yeah, and Councilmember, I remember we had a detailed discussion at last meeting about that there was consideration of doing 60%, but there would be less units potentially affordable. And so the EDC, within the minutes, we did talk about how having more units at an affordable rate at the 50%, we felt that there was a little bit more return on investment in order to prioritize the larger number of affordable units.
Thank you. I was just trying, that was my question. So.
Got it.
Helpful.
Thank you.
One comment that I have is just to compliment Ellers. I think that the layout of this particular the financial performance and this chart of the present value cost over the term, and that is just really helps sum things up. That format is very clear, and I think it helps just provide some context to the true cost, both for the developer and kind of what gap we're truly trying to solve for. So I like that. Nicely done. Other comments or questions? Or would the developer care to, is the developer present?
I just want to give one more piece of information before you get to the developer chair, because I did get your answer. So the difference between the rent rate on and I have to go back to the chart here. So the rent rate on a 1-bedroom for a 50% unit is $12.41. The rent rate on a 60% unit would be $14.89. Yeah, so it's quite a jump in rent. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay. Would the developer care to address council?
Madam, I'm getting good at this. My size world.
Please state your name. And
Tom Dillon with Inland Development Partners from Wayzata. Madam Chair, committee members, I really don't have much to present. You've already seen this, you've seen this project twice, I think, so far, so you know just about everything you need to know. To your point, Madam Chair, it was, I think our discussion last session was about more affordable units, and I think that's why we ended up at the 50%. And we were comfortable accepting that. So again, I'm here for any questions. We'd like to get started on this project this fall if we could, if it doesn't turn winter too quickly here. And then it's about a 12-month delivery cycle. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, I'll just get out of the way because it sounds like you're ready to vote. Thank you.
any questions for the developer? Comments? Oh, wonderful. Thank you for coming. I appreciate that. I just like to comment that I think it's a wonderful rounding out that area as well and helping to, bring more vitality to that area, removing some of the blighted office that was there. So wonderful creative use of that land area. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Commissioner Falk.
I absolutely agree. I think it's a great use of not only the space, but a great way of bringing affordable housing and just seeing more housing in general reach Minnetonka. And I would love to support an earlier construction so we can just jump on the construction bandwagon and get that out of the way.
So would we.
Great comments. Other questions or comments? Okay. Yes.
Just again,
Commissioner.
one general question for Ms. Gray. Is there, I keep calling
I'm
Ms.
Ms.
Gray,
Wishnaw,
Ms.
but
Wishnack,
that's
I keep-
okay.
The C and say is not working for me.
That's fine.
What I was going to ask is, this is the third of three in the phases of development. And I was just curious about your perspective and how these three developments sort of work together now that it's sort of a completed whole. If there's any other kind of, if the city has a plan to do anything incremental in terms of transit or anything else now that this area is developed and it's gone from being one thing to something totally different.
I think it's a interesting question, Commissioner Haig. I think there's a couple of things on my mind. One is there is synergy between the buildings, which I think was important to the council. You mentioned this quite a bit when you talked about it, like where are people getting amenities? Where are people parking? Where are the dogs going to go? I mean, there's just a lot of lifestyle things that wanted to be addressed by this project. So what was interesting is the developer did indicate that they would have access to the various, because the larger buildings have a much bigger workout facility, amenities, the pool, etc. So the ability of these residents to access those amenities. So that was a good, I think, end result for that. You know, the park is really near there, so there's lots of open space to the north. There's also trail, which needs to get redone because of the Vale, but the developers will take care of finishing that out and then wrap it around to this project. And then that it's not on the west side the whole way, but at least for this project, we'll be able to get people to their units in a safe way. The other thing that we think about at the city is kind of improving that access to Ridgedale. So even for the existing development, we've had big plans in our heads about trying to get the access under the underpass to be a little bit more friendly, a little bit wider. It's pretty narrow, more bikeable, in my opinion, needs to happen. So we're thinking about those things and thinking about those improvements. And transit is just a whole nother subject matter. And so, as you know, we've gone over the transit plan and the results of our study, and we do think microtransit is the way to go in these areas where you don't have a lot of, even though we have a lot of people now, we don't have a lot of ridership. That doesn't equal automatic ridership. So microtransit might be another way to address the needs of transit as we move forward. So I think those are the things on my mind as we further this. What's really cool though is you can walk to a grocery store from here, you can go to Trader Joe's, you can go to a restaurant, you can go to Michael's, you can, you know, there's a lot of stuff there. I think I'm always thinking of ways to improve that area, but I think there's access to good stuff. So
Yeah, I think you answered the question better than I could have asked it, but it's, when I say transit, I think it is more about just connections to everything, especially with Ridgedale, jobs for people that are living in the affordable units. There's just a lot of great connection there as we build density around Ridgedale. So thank you for the answer.
yes.
Wonderful. And if I may ask a comment, Marsh Run 2 just opened, just received the certificate of occupancy, so that we resident, any update on kind of their leasing status or progress?
I just heard from I think they're 30% full, I believe, is what they said the other day. So yeah, that doesn't mean occupied. I should say that maybe isn't all the leases they signed, but the actual occupancy.
Wonderful. Good progress. Great. Good commentary and discussion. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? No? Okay. Seeing that, is there a motion for the commission to consider something?
Chair, I put forth a motion to approve the proposal as presented.
Okay. Motion to approve the proposal as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any comments, questions? No? Okay, with that, we'll go into voting. So there's a motion on the table. All those in favor of approving the proposal as documented, should I state
We'll do a
explicitly?
roll call.
Okay, feel free. Go ahead.
Okay. Connors?
Yes.
Falk?
Yes.
Haig?
Yes.
Didinski? Spolka?
Yes.
Thank you. It goes to the Planning Commission next week, and then on to the City Council after that, depending on the review. Thank you.
Wonderful, and thank you for joining us, both of our guests, and we wish you best of luck.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, with that, we'll roll into the rest of our agenda and staff report.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. This is just a few updates for you. I won't take too much time. If you haven't seen the new virtual tour of the Metro Green Line, you should do that. There's also a very detailed Minnetonka video coming out. If it's not already posted, I think it was supposed to be posted last week. I haven't looked to see if it's posted, but this is one video link, and it's with the drone kind of flying over, and you can kind of get a better sense of what's out there, and especially places you're not familiar with, maybe down the line or to the south of us, maybe you're not quite as familiar. They'll start the safety testing in the fall, so we'll see that testing going on. You'll see all of the safety measures being tested as we move through the next year and a half, and then it will be open. I know that's amazing to say. Let's see, development updates, I just updated you on Marshland 2, and then city-owned properties, the permits have been approved for construction for the twin home on Roland. That's the city property we sold to Amani. And actually, the closing happened, I think everything was signed today, and that closing happens on Monday. They'll have their permits, and they'll start construction as soon as probably a couple of weeks from now. We'll update you on that. We'll give you pictures. We'll show you what's going on. Greco, if you haven't been by on 394, especially on the west side, there is a lot of construction both on the south and the north. The north side is Sakia, but then the south side's this project for Greco. That's the senior building, and that framing has begun on that project. Mills, we actually are almost there. The plat was finally completed. There were lots of title work issues. It's old property, that always happens, and then we're waiting on some building plans from them. The Gray Star project, if you haven't been to Opus, that is well under construction. There's lots of framing going on there too. And then Amira Villas, we'll actually go by that on our tour, so you'll get maybe a closer look at that when we go on the bus trip later, in 2 weeks, I should say. Chasewood Villas, that renovation, and if you forgot what we did there, it was the HIA, the Housing Improvement Area that we issued. That was a large number, $12 million, so that was a very big project, and that's very much underway in terms of construction. So siding, roof, windows, all of that stuff is very much underway. So then moving into other things, the Government Center still has some HVAC stuff going on for Hennepin County. Clear Springs also has some things going on. And then Walser, I already mentioned, we'll stop there too on our tour. Wells Fargo, if you haven't been by there, the phase 1 is complete. So then the bank will move in, and then the bank building will come down. So you'll see that demolition probably later this summer. And then Barnes and Noble is moving by Michael's. And then I think something's replacing them. I'm just not quite sure yet what it is. And so we'll see what's going to go into their old spot in the mall area there by Target. Rental registration program. We actually, if you look at the packet too, for the council is having a meeting on Monday, what we call it the housing, all things housing, all things housing study session. And there's some numbers in there too about housing registration. We've actually looked at some of the rent rates they gave us in there and kind of compared it to what we're seeing in the market. So that's kind of interesting. And so we're doing well on registrations. And then homelessness, we're okay on that as well. I don't like to call that a good success. I mean, the lower the numbers, the better. But we're helping people. That's the positive thing. And we're helping people get into more permanent housing. That's the point there. And then Pathways, the council on Monday did approve an extra $200,000 to go toward that program. So we're able to then do new loans again, so which is amazing because we were out of money. And then the recommendation in the EIP for the $175,000 for the HRA levy went to the council as well. Business outreach, I don't know that there's anything new to tell here, although did you get the new Thrive? Okay, so
one question that I
Yeah.
had related to the homelessness. I'm curious if the city is preparing to partner at all with food shelves or anything, kind of understanding some of the potential changes at federal funding level. If there's any exploration of those programs, I know we have several in the city.
Yeah, with ICA for sure. We have been visiting with ICA. There's nothing that's happened yet. However, I know there's a lot of talk about how to supplant some of those funds. Not necessarily from the city side, but there is community development block grant money that the city is a part of at the county level. So I'm sure that's one way that might happen. As far as other options, I don't know that we know yet. So, but it is on the, I would call it the watch list, if you will. Let's see, moving into, so Thrive, you saw it was about retail and Ridgedale and all of that, and it had some really cool highlights of a local business. Did you see that about the piano reuse? I thought that was an interesting article. All these things you discover about your community that you don't know. That's amazing. We're looking at getting one of our code compliance handouts refreshed, and then they were able to get out and canvass some companies in the Ridgedale area. And I say that was Kirsten and some Hennepin County folks. And they were able to talk to 20 people. So that was very good outreach. And then we also, at the Chamber of Commerce meeting, the Business Council meeting, were able to have the people from Elevate and from the Minnesota Consortium of Community Developers. That's the Open to Business program. They were able to present to the businesses at that meeting. And just more about Elevate Hennepin. So upcoming items, we have the housing study session. So if you're interested to see what we wrote about for the council, there's some information about encampment policy. The council wanted a more public-facing encampment policy so that the city tells the residents what we would do in a situation like that. And then the joint tours on the 31st. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. I'm losing my calendar in my head. August 14th is the next EDAC meeting, which is your final review of the EIP before it goes back to the council and any other development issues that happen between now and then. With that, Chair, I'm complete with my staff report if you have any questions.
Wonderful. Commissioners, any questions, feedback? Yes, Commissioner Falk.
I noticed in the development updates, the Ridgedale Kowalski's was not updated. Is there a change in that development?
Chair, and now I'm looking at Ann's name over there. This is really throwing us off. And Commissioner Falk, there is something happening there. We don't have a for sure, but there is a talk about making it a mixed development. So having mixed use and the grocery store, so that's taking some time to figure out. So I probably just didn't update it because we're not sure where that's going to land yet. If they need help, you're going to see them.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Other questions? No?
One just general question. I know that there's now a request for input on zoning related stuff. Just curious how much input you're getting and what the next step is beyond that.
Yes, and I'm trying to think who's our liaison who's from EDAC. Oh, you know who it is? Former chair, why am I drawing a blank? Lee Johnston. So he obviously isn't here to update you, so I'll update you. We are talking about 2 surveys, okay? So one is online and one is an official survey, meaning we're using our official surveying company Decision, Leatherman and Associates, to do the call around. So like we do with the city survey, we wanted a statistically significant survey to ask similar questions than what you see on the online survey. So the online survey is more like getting people a little comfortable about visualizing density and what do they like and what do they not like and trying to weigh in. And so we've had about 150 hits on the survey online, which is great. It's actually more than I thought, because saying that you want people to talk about zoning on a survey is not, it's my business, but I'm not sure that everybody is very interested in it. So we're happy that we have that much input already. The actual phone survey, the statistical one, is actually going on right now. And they will call, I think it's a 300-person sample, and they will get those kind of more statistically significant answers. On top of that, we were at Summerfest. There were 6,000 people there. It was crazy. It's the biggest year we've had in years. And we actually got people to stop by and talk about zoning with us. So while their kids were doing spin art, we were talking about zoning with them, and we were able to get about 40 people to visit with us about their thoughts. So really good outreach happening now. If you want to fill it out, you're welcome to do that. Especially as a commissioner, you have a little bit more intimate knowledge of what's happening at the city level. So I'd love for you to look at it and fill it out. It wouldn't take much time. I would say less than 10 minutes to fill it out. So thank you for reminding me.
What is the website that it's at? Again?
Just go to MinnetonkaMatters.com, and it's right there at the front page. It should be on the left-hand side, zoning update, and then it should say take survey.
And I was going to say, I didn't know that Leatherman was engaged to do that other side of things. I saw the call for input. And I would really,
Yeah.
I'm glad both are happening.
Yeah.
Because there's a dual mechanism of asking for input. People feel heard, less of a surprise, whatever the end conclusion is. So.
Right. And I think too, sometimes you want to know from people who are the most interested too. And so I want to hear what whoever has taken enough time to tell us what they think. I do think that's important to hear who's talking to us on that platform, but then tempering it with more of a overall city survey. So we're hopefully going to get both points of view. So thank you.
Great. Wonderful. Any other questions, feedback?
Just one quick question. I know that the Amera project is now under construction and all the units have already been rented. And I wanted to just ask you if that is expected that at this point in time, all the units would have been rented, or is this kind of a, wow, this is great sort of thing?
Well, we can talk about that more on the trip. However, I think they were surprised by the quickness of its renting out. It's unusual at this stage of construction to have everything rented out. Yes, I think that's true, but I'll get more information from United Properties and see what they say.
Thank you.
Okay. No more comments. Wonderful. Okay. So, seeing no more comments on the staff report, anything else that we'd like to address tonight? Okay. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Seconded?
I need a motion first. Sorry.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Second. I have 2 seconds here. Okay. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks for filling in.